Somewhere this week, a 21-year-old girl from Manila is sitting in a locker room surrounded by four-time Grand Slam champions, Olympic gold medalists, and a former world number one, and she's not there as a guest. She earned every inch of that room herself. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why her name in that draw sheet means more than most people realize, and why what happens next could decide the rest of her season. Stay with me, because there's a detail buried in this story that changes everything you think you know about this tournament, and if you leave before the end, you're going to miss the one twist that nobody saw coming. But before we get into it, if stories like this are why you're here, subscribe right now. Not for us. For you. Because this story isn't finished. It's moving fast, match by match, and if you don't subscribe now, you're going to find out what happens to her from somebody else's video, days late, after everyone else already knows. Don't let that be you. Subscribe, and let's get into what's actually happening in Washington this week. Eala arrives at the Mubadala Citi DC Open ranked number 29 in the world. Hold on to that number, because it's the reason this story matters. She's not walking into this tournament as a wild card hoping to sneak a win. She's walking in on merit, into one of the deepest fields the WTA 500 tier has assembled all summer. Look at the names sharing this draw with her. Jessica Pegula, world number 3, entering on a wild card as the top seed and the tournament's 2019 champion. Elina Svitolina, seeded second. Naomi Osaka, a four-time Grand Slam champion, seeded third. Diana Shnaider. Anna Kalinskaya. Madison Keys. And Leylah Fernandez, the defending champion, who dismantled Anna Kalinskaya in last year's final in just over an hour. Add two more wildcards to that mix, Venus Williams, and a name we'll come back to in a moment, Zheng Qinwen. This tournament runs from July 27 through August 2 at the William H. G. Fitzgerald Tennis Center, with a champion's check of $252,000 waiting at the end of it. And somewhere inside that bracket, Eala's name sits next to an opponent with a history that should make anyone nervous. Here's where the tension actually starts. Zheng Qinwen once reached as high as world number 4. She made the final of the 2024 Australian Open. She won Olympic gold in Paris that same year. On paper, this should be one of the most intimidating names in tennis. But Zheng arrives in Washington on a wild card herself, currently ranked outside the top 100, after an elbow injury kept her off the tour for the better part of a year. She's still searching for her form, with early exits at both the French Open and Wimbledon this year. So which version of Zheng Qinwen shows up in round 1? Nobody knows yet. And that uncertainty is exactly what makes this match dangerous, because these two have unfinished business. Their only previous meeting came back in 2023, at the Asian Games semi-final, when Zheng beat an 18-year-old Eala in 3 tight sets on her way to gold, while Eala had to settle for bronze. That loss never got a rematch. Until now. Keep that in mind, because there's a bigger story sitting just underneath this match, and it's the reason a former world number 1 publicly defended Eala on his own podcast just weeks ago. We'll get to exactly what he said in a moment, but first, you need to understand what actually happened to turn a rising 21-year-old into a name people are chanting about. It all traces back to Wimbledon. Eala walked into that tournament seeded 29th, and by the time she walked out, she'd rewritten Philippine tennis history. She opened with a clean win over Renata Zarazua, 6-1, 6-2. In the next round, she dropped the first set to Australia's Maya Joint before completely flipping the match, closing it out 6-2, 6-0. Then came the moment nobody expected. On center court, in the third round, she faced Iga Swiatek, the defending champion and world number 3, and beat her in a tiebreak thriller, 7-6, 6-2. That win alone was one of the biggest upsets of the entire tournament. It made Eala the first Filipino player in the Open era to reach the 4th round of Wimbledon. Her run finally ended there, in a gripping 3-set battle against Italy's Jasmine Paolini, 6-4, 4-6, 6-3, after more than 2 hours on center court. She didn't win that match. But by the time it was over, nobody was talking about her as a surprise anymore. And that's exactly what caught the attention of Andy Roddick, a former world number one, on his podcast Served. He described the atmosphere Eala had created around her matches, watch parties so full there was no room left, no matter how big the venue, and said flatly, on record, that he was here for what he called Eala Mania, because it's good for tennis. When critics suggested the conversation around her should quiet down, Roddick pushed back hard. That's not a passing compliment. That's one of the most respected voices in American tennis defending a 21-year-old's rise, out loud, in public. Now here's the twist buried in this week's story that almost nobody saw coming, and it's the reason Eala walks into Washington carrying a little more weight than expected. She was supposed to reunite in doubles with Venus Williams, after the two had already reached the quarterfinals together at the Bad Homburg Open last month. It looked like the kind of pairing that writes its own headline, a 7-time Grand Slam champion and a rising star sharing the same side of the net. And then, without any official explanation, it didn't happen. When the doubles draw was released, Eala's name wasn't in it. Venus Williams was paired instead with Diana Shnaider. No reason was given. Which means Eala walks into this tournament with only one thing left to focus on. Singles. No doubles match to fall back on if things go wrong. Just one narrow path, and everything now rides on it. Here's the part of this story that even the most experienced analysts can't answer in advance, and it's the reason this match matters more than a typical first round. Eala has barely competed on hard courts all season. Her breakthrough came on grass, a surface that rewards her flat, aggressive shot-making in a way that hard courts simply don't. Hard courts play differently, higher bounce, more time for an opponent to load up on heavy topspin, and that's precisely the kind of game Zheng Qinwen brings when she's healthy. So the real question hiding underneath this entire tournament isn't whether Eala can win on a surface built for her strengths. She already proved that at Wimbledon. The real question is whether what happened there travels with her, or whether it only existed on grass, under one very specific set of conditions, in one specific fortnight that's already over. And if she gets through Zheng Qinwen, there's no easing into this tournament. Waiting on the other side of the draw is Leylah Fernandez, the defending champion, fresh off dominating this exact court last year, or a dangerous alternative in Poland's Magda Linette. Either way, there's no soft landing here. Every round tests a different part of her game, against players who have already proven they belong on this surface. This single match is the opening step of Eala's entire North American hardcourt swing, a stretch that carries her next to the Canadian Open, then Cincinnati, before everything builds toward the US Open at the end of August. Which means whatever happens against Zheng Qinwen in Washington isn't just one result. It's the first signal for how her whole summer is about to unfold. So if this story pulled you in the way it pulled us in while putting it together, make sure you're subscribed, because we are not walking away from this one. The next chapter of Eala's season is already being written, match by match, and there's a real chance the biggest twist in this story hasn't even happened yet. Stay close, you don't want to be the last one to find out.